Good morning, and thank you everybody for attending this roundtable about ESP teaching at the Second International Conference on English Linguistics in the 21st Century. Thanks to the organization for having invited me to talk about my experience as an ESP teacher at the bachelor's degree of English studies at Complutense University. I would like to start my presentation by introducing you to the different sections of this presentation that I'm going to deliver. So first of all, I'm going to be providing a definition of ESP, and I'm going to explain what it means to teach ESP to English undergraduates, which is a little bit different to teaching ESP to other type of ESP students. Then I will talk about the methodology that I use to teach my sessions, and also different activities and resources that students had to do during the course and how they were assessed. And I will further talk about the activities and resources that my students had to design for their own ESP courses. Finally, I will draw some conclusions about this experience that I hope that you find helpful and enriching. So what do we mean by English for specific purposes? According to Araru Hassan, it is specialized English language teaching that aims to develop specific skills of the learner in response to the needs identified or indicated by various stakeholders. So, more in depth, what does this really mean? Well, basically, that ESP is an approach to the teaching of English, not a teaching method. That means that when we are teaching ESP, we can use different teaching methods according to the objectives that we want to obtain. These objectives are focusing on specific skills, that is, specific tests, genres, or linguistic features, such as specific grammar and vocabulary that our students, our target population, need to be able to carry out their professional duties. So basically, the decisions that we make about the activities that we include in our ESP courses depend on the learner's needs. There are several types of ESP courses. We know that. We know that we can teach ESP to university students, also to vocational training students, and also to employees at a company. Some of the most popular ESP courses would be those that we have here, so business English, for instance, English for tourism, or English for science and technology. But there are several of them and of very different natures. So that's why it is very important to really understand the needs of our students before designing our ESP course and teaching English to those students. So the tasks that they are going to be conducted are different. An engineer would not have the same type of needs that business person. So we really need to understand which is the nature of their jobs to actually see which are the grammatical features that they need to use in their daily lives, or the vocabulary, the specific technical terms that they need to use to understand each other, and also the type of language skills that they need to further develop. There are some groups that need more practice on reading and writing, because most of the tasks that they are going to be conducting are writing reports, for instance, or reading emails. And there are others who are going to be more focusing on developing their speaking skills, because they, for example, have to talk to people who are coming to eat at a restaurant, for instance. So we need to bear all these things in mind to actually design our own courses. Now, what is special about teaching ESP to English undergraduates? Well, precisely the fact that here we are not teaching ESP students, that is, people who work as engineers or tourist agents, or willing to learn English to further develop their professional duties and reach a more international audience. But we are teaching students who already know English And what the future is going to be like is that most of them are going to become teachers, and they are going to be teaching English for these type of employees or students who are carrying other duties. So what does this imply? The fact that the courses that you have to teach to English undergraduates are based on teaching them how to teach and design ESP courses rather than teaching them English. So bearing that in mind, I designed a course that had as a final goal to ask our students to design their own ESP courses in groups, which was their final course project. In order to achieve that goal, I divided the different sessions into theory sessions and practice sessions. These practice sessions were weekly seminars that were directly linked to the theory that was studied at that time, that week. To be more specific, these were the different things that we were doing in each of the seminars. So first, we had an experts roundtable in which I invited some ESP teachers that were teaching at that time, who had some experience teaching English to different types of professionals and different types of students in terms of students at different educational stages. So some of them had experience teaching university students, some others had experience teaching vocational training students, and there were other experts who had some experience teaching employees at companies. So these experts talked about their own experiences, the different difficulties that they had to overcome, and where they could find some materials and support for their teaching. And students were listening actively to what they were saying, and then they had the opportunity to ask about any type of concerns that they had before they actually decided which was the type of course that they wanted to design. Once we did this round table, then the next seminar was about them joining their groups and deciding which was the topic, the type of target population that they wanted to design the course for, and had a look at some of the literature on the internet and at the library so that they understand which were the most typical linguistic features that their target population needed to learn and the type of skills that they had to focus on, and so on and so forth. And then the remaining sessions was about designing the course. So first they had to do to conduct the needs analysis, in which they were discussing which were the different necessities, lacks, and objectives of their students. Then, based on that, they had to design their own syllabus, and also they had to design the materials of one of the units. And finally, they had to take some decisions about how the course would be assessed and how the students would be assessed. So one thing was how they were going to assess their students based on the different linguistic features and skills that they included in their syllabus. And another thing was about how are we going to assess this course so that we know what failed and what could be improved for future students. So that was basically it, and the students were assessed according to a portfolio that they had to submit after every seminar. So basically, they had to summarize everything that they had been discussing during the session and provide, for example, the design of the whole syllables or the materials that they designed. And then at the very end of the course, they had to present their work in front of the class, so that they show the rest of the students what they did, how they carried out the different stages, and also how they designed their different materials. Apart from that, as we were conducting a teaching innovation project at that time related to ESP, I told them that those students who design, or those groups who design the best materials and resources would be uploaded at the digital repository that we were designing. So here you have the website where you can find the different materials that they designed. And this will be an example of one of the materials that the group on textile industry designed. And apart from that, also, those who delivered the most complete their presentation were invited to participate in the first university conference on teaching and learning English for specific purposes. And like this, they had the opportunity to actually deliver their presentation not just in front of their classmates, but in front of a wider audience that included experts, included ESP teachers, but also ESP students of different fields. And they found it really enriching and helpful, especially because these were four-year students who were starting thinking about their final projects for the degree, and this gave them an idea of what they could do for the final presentations as well. So to conclude, we can say that in order to guarantee an effective ESP course, it is important to train future ESP practitioners, and that's precisely what this course was about. It was not about teaching English, it was about teaching how to design and implement their knowledge about English in a real situation, in a real hypothetical situation, let's say. I think it was very useful to include some hands-on activities that focused on solving potential real problems, because this helps students to better understand the ESP students' needs. They saw that it's not the same to teach English for engineers than to teach English at high school, for instance, to a general audience, let's say. And finally, I want to point out that giving students the opportunity to share and present their work to the world through the digital repository and also through the conference motivated them and actually helped them to foster their soft skills, since they had to work in groups. They had to be creative, as they had to design their own materials on their own course, and they also had to deal with some constraints such as time managing, which is very important nowadays. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. I hope that you've enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me through the email address that you have at the very bottom of this slide. So here you have some of the references that I used. Thank you again, and I hope to see you soon at another conference.